I'm in a raid today. We're going to go over the Mâkhda Khorbô. That's got to be pretty close. This raid, it's going to be tier 2. So the tank should go ahead and do a countdown prior to running in here so everybody knows. For this, Arkin did 2 tanks. So that means I'm going to be tanking mainly Azagath there. He's the main boss. He's not going to take any damage. You can't stun him or anything until his compatriots there are taken out. So some things you should know as a tank or DPS is basically don't use any sort of AoE stun spheres, any sort of CCs at all to this group, because that's going to cause some other chain reactions that those bosses are going to do to wipe your group essentially. You might be able to recover if one happens, but really just avoid it completely. The only stuns that you should really be doing are single target ones, and those are going to be essentially to interrupt the gray bar actions of the side bosses, the companions there. And essentially, we just did a countdown. We ran in. I did an AoE taunt so that I'm taking a brunt of the damage, and I got the main boss. And then I announced that on Discord. And then Truck's there, who's the second tank. He's actually the primary tank, but will then do a taunt as well. And then I'll do my single taunt on the main boss. That way, I took a bunch of damage, and then all of that damage gets diverted to the second tank, and then I just take the main boss. Basically, we're going to stand next to each other this whole fight, but basically it's just me and the main boss, and all I have to do is survive. Because I'm not doing any damage to the main boss at all. The other things, and now I went down. But the other things that the main boss does essentially is he will put eyes on people. That's going to be a kind of a warning that's going to be in your buff bar there. And that is going to go on different characters in your group here in your raid, and essentially Azagath is going to turn around and hit them really hard. So you do a call out just to let the healers know, like, hey, there's an eye on such and such. You see he's doing Howl of the Deathless right now. Essentially that's part of it. But I got picked up. I got rezzed, which is great because now I can take Azagath back. But back to the stuns and CCs. So what you need to know is you need to assign somebody from your raid per each of the side bosses here. So somebody to watch Farida, who's going to do a Heartseeker. And you see how she has a gray bar over her right now. And again, when it's a gray bar and it says Heartseeker above it, you're going to go ahead and, if you're the person assigned, go ahead and stun her or fear her, something. That way, that gray bar is interrupted. Now, if she has a yellow bar, you can go ahead and interrupt that. That's fine. But you don't use a stun or anything. You use your interrupt skill to do that. Same thing goes for like Ishkar or Zagron. They have specific skills that you gotta look for. The big ones that we looked for in this raid was Shield Wall, Oathbreaker, and Heartseeker. So if you're able to interrupt, like assign a person in your raid that just looks at them and just interrupts that gray bar. And you have to have your inductions on in order to see these bars over each character. If you, like, you'll see Howl of the Deathless, that's the induction bar. It only shows me on Azagath because that's who I have targeted. So that's why you see Heartseeker here. You would hope that somebody would step in and take that and stun him. That way it interrupts. Azagath can't be stunned because if you look at his buff bar up there, it's got 1, 2, 3 items, and then it's got that red circle, which is the stun immunity. But in any case, as you were watching, you should have seen each of the lower bosses get defeated, and then we're now on Azagath. He's taking damage now, and he's going down pretty quick. So that's some of the things that you need to know is no AoE stuns or fears or anything like that. Assign a person to each of the bosses that they look for their specific interrupt, and then Azagath is going to do an eye. Just call out the eye and who it's on so that the healer can go ahead and heal them. Out of this, we don't get a whole lot of good loot. That kind of is a downer, but for my first time doing it, it was kind of eye-opening how this worked, because I've done other raids and there's always some sort of mechanic. This one was kind of straightforward and a little basic, but after getting the explanation of like how this raid works, I found for DPS it's a little more involved. For a tank, it's just I take the main boss and I just take him. So this next part, we're just going to be burning down some ads, and essentially all you got to do is get your raid group into this room here. Basically keep them to the left hand side of the doorway so that they're out of line of sight, and then the first tank should run out there, AoE taunt, and then run in here into this room, stand by that palm tree there, and essentially all those ads should come in because they're out of line of sight, so they're trying to get into line of sight, and they'll run into this room, and that's when the rest of the raid burns them down. I ran with Truck there, probably didn't need to do that, but he does his AoE taunt here. That large group there starts coming in here. I'm still in learning mode at this point, so I didn't realize I don't need to taunt right there at the door. What I need to do is go out there and get the rest of the guys that are still standing at the door. So I'm gonna not attract that group in there, but try and get the aggro back here and then move over to that palm tree essentially. And that's all you got to do here. There's a bunch of different groups out there that are patrolling, and you just got to time it right so that you run out there, get one group, bring them in, defeat them, run back out, get another group, bring them in, defeat them. Should be 3 total if my memory serves proper. There might be 4, but it just kind of depends on how the group goes. Okay, so we're finishing up the last group here, and we're going to be, that gate will open. We're going to move into the next section of the raid, and you'll see each of the raid bosses are essentially behind one of these like instant doorways, the little portals. In this room, it's going to be basically a full circle, but each circle has like a gate. The whole goal of this is the first area you're in, stay in that area. Don't get knocked back, or you can get knocked backwards into an area you've already been in, but if you get knocked into the next room, then you're going to aggro a whole new group of ads. So that's why you'll see that none of these guys that are DPSing are on the right side of the screen. It's just the Guardian tank and myself, and we don't even have our backs to there. See how they spawn there? So you don't want to get behind them where it's going to knock you through that little gap there. If you do that, then more will spawn, and you'll just have double and triple of the problems. So that's why the tanks moved over to this corner, because we have a wall to our back. We still have all the aggro. And then all the DPS stays on the right side. So if they get knocked back, they go backwards towards the room we've already been in. That's very important here. So I believe there's 1, 2, 3 sets of ads like this, maybe 4. And then there's the main boss. So let's take a look, and if there's anything else, I'll add it. All right, we're here at the second big fight. And you'll see Belondor in the back. He's the main boss. Then you have all the other bosses there, the smaller bosses, I guess. And each of them have a buff that they can give Belondor. At the very beginning, there's a 30-second dialogue, so no need to hit any sort of cooldowns or anything while this is going on. When there's about 3 or 4 seconds left, whoever the main tank is needs to hit one of their big cooldowns. That way they're protected whenever they go to taunt. So this one I'm going to use Thickened Hide. It's going to reduce 60% essentially of all the damage coming in for 26 seconds, which is awesome. I did a little early there, but now I do a forced taunt. I have everybody's attention, and my job here is I do the forced taunt. The second tank is then going to do an AoE taunt, and now what I need to do is run to the back corner. I'm going to keep Belondor targeted, and I'm going to have him, come back here with me. Salax is the other boss that I want back here. The Kahalmos guy, he shouldn't have come with me, but we talked about it in Discord, and we got the second tank to grab him and taunt him back. So now I have both Salax and Belondor here. That's perfect, because that means the other bosses over there are now separate. They don't really buff up Belondor, so they're going to be taken care of over there. The distance is perfect. The only other thing that the group needed to correct here was putting some of the Lore Master debuffs on Belondor and Salax, so I'm not taking a ton of damage. Now, they end up doing this, and we're able to keep up with the healing. And now it's been a couple weeks since I've done this raid. My mitigations are much better, and my gear is better, so I wouldn't take this much damage anyway if I did it today. So just keep that in mind whenever you want to tank this. Make sure you have good gear on, and make sure your virtues and mitigations are up above, or close to 175,000. So K. And then basically I just sit back here with them. There's a couple things that DPS need to do over there and watch for, but for the most part, it's just a run and gun. In chat, we typically put, you'll see an acronym if you go back and watch each of the beginnings of these boss fights. There's a weird acronym in there, and that is saying the order of which boss and killing them or defeating them. So you'll see for this one, it'll end up the last 2 will be S and then B. For Salax will get defeated in Belondor. So once most of those bosses over there are burned or defeated, burned down to a specific point, you'll see me move back over and take Belondor and Salax with me. Now they have to be close to some of the other guys in order for Belondor to get a debuff, essentially, so that we can defeat him. You'll see that Salax is gone. He got pulled back over to the main group, and now they're burning him down. You can see in the assist window that's right in front of my bear here that you can see how fast Salax is going down. That shows that the DPS from the group is pretty darn good. And in a second here, you'll see me run over. See how it turned green for a second and then everybody got up? I'm moving some of my UI around just to make sure I had things in the right place. But yep, I brought Belondor over. So once everybody's back up again, Lashana pops up and starts doing some damage, and you want Belondor next to him. Okay, and then essentially the next thing is they're all gonna spawn ghosts. My job is to aggro all those ghosts, and then we'll go ahead and start burning everybody down as fast as possible. So shades, essentially. And then we can burn Belondor down again. I need to hit my thickened hide again. I should have done that, because whenever you AoE, all of them are going to hit you really hard. And basically, we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to take Belondor again and get aggro of him, which I seem to have lost, but I think that's because Truck did a AoE taunt, or maybe somebody did a bunch of damage and was able to take him from me. But they're going to go ahead and keep fighting Belondor, and we're going to try and get him burned down while Truck keeps most of the shades on him. Okay, and he's going to do a little dialogue here saying that he's going to go back to wherever he came from. Essentially, I'm going to end up looting this one. I got picked, so I typically get dressed up nice to loot something. In this case, I was just in my newbie mode going, I just need to loot real quick, not waste these guys' time. And I got another helmet. Not great. And then, yeah. And there they go. Just disenchanted them right away. All right. All right, we moved on to the last boss here. And this one has, because it's the last boss, has a bunch of different things going on that I'll explain the tank portion, and then once we get through the tank portion, I'll talk about the DPS portion. There needs to be 2 tanks here for this to go relatively smoothly. My big portion is basically just taking aggro of this head. Once the head is able to be attacked there, I'm going to take aggro of it. I'm also going to take aggro of the slapping tentacle here. Now, I did this incorrectly. I thought I was doing it correctly, but I kind of messed it up. So, when the aggro is... Okay. So, the first thing is run the opposite way of your DPS and everybody else. So, when they ran in and went to the left, I go all the way to the right like I did. I did that correctly. The thing that I messed up is... Here, I didn't understand that each of these tentacles, number one, were labeled something different. So I was a little confused. There's a sturdy and a slapping. The sturdies are on the inside and the slappings are on the outside. So that's one of the things. I have to come here. I have to get the sturdy. I also have to get control of the head here and make sure I have the aggro. Now, I thought when I was running this, I needed aggro of all the tentacles and the head. So I tried to go from tentacle to tentacle, getting everything aggroed. And that was pretty much incorrect. Basically, just aggro the two sturdies as best you can and the head, and then the slappings will pop up. You're gonna run to the opposite slapping of everybody else. So like how they're on the left hand side of this head here, I should have been, if the slapping is still up, I should have been all the way at the end of the dock. But as of right now, I'm doing this portion correctly. So once those slappings are taken care of, I stay on the right side of the head here, facing the head this way. That way when he does that throw up thing he just did, nobody else is taking damage. It's just me taking damage. All of them are going to be down the dock on the left there. And what's going on down there is that there's two tentacles and they are crushing the boat. And you can kind of see it in the background, but they are wrapped around that boat. And what the group is doing is they're going to go ahead and defeat those tentacles, which releases the boat. And you'll see the boat coming to hit the main boss. So that was done correctly. The group is staying on the left-hand side there so that if the glutton here throws up, the AoE just hits me. It doesn't hit them. Now, it looks like he's turning to like eat them, like I don't have the aggro. He's doing damage to one or two people over there. I'll take the aggro back, and then he just does damage to me. The sturdy tentacles, the group is going to burn down a little bit at a time. And so I'm going to take the aggro of this sturdy on this left side, and they're going to beat up the sturdy on the right side. Now, I'll keep the aggro of the right one for a little bit as they're beating it up. But for the most part, I'm just taking the damage from everything else while they kill it. One thing that I could have done better here is before I came in was to try and tooltip, which is just hitting H. So whenever I target something, you can hit H and it will pop up as a tooltip. That way I don't have to hit the tab button to cycle through everything. But in any case, this is a rinse and repeat sort of action here. They're going to run to one side, beat up the tentacle that's wrapped around the boats. I'm going to keep the aggro here. The second tank, and this is important, the second tank is essentially keeping aggro of everything else that occurs. So once ads pop up, he's going to run back and grab all the ads. If he ends up taking a tentacle or the head, I will taunt all that back. I'll taunt the head and the tentacles back, but I don't want to get the ads whenever I go ahead and taunt. So each time the boat hits the head, there'll be a reset where the head goes down into the water and we have slapping tentacles pop up. And if we look down at this slapping tentacle, where I'm supposed to be is where the 90-degree bend occurs in the dock there. So I'm supposed to be at the far corner facing the slapping tentacle somewhere else. I ran down here because I thought, oh, they're switching, so I need to be down there. That was incorrect. I still needed to be at that corner there. I mean, the group isn't even all the way at the corner, which is perfect because, yeah, where that guy's standing and jumping, I didn't actually see him because I thought too much was going on. But, yeah, the guy with the long sword at the top of the screen, that's where I'm supposed to be. And that slapping tentacle is supposed to be facing me that way so that the rest of the group doesn't get hurt. This throw up move is going to do AoE damage, frontal AoE, so that's why I face him this way. All the ads are going to be essentially behind me or to my left at this point, kind of behind the guy that looks like a present. And my goal is to, no matter what, try not to let that guy throw up on them because it does mass amounts of damage. And you might be able to see some of those guys did get hit by that damage. So that was also not great, but we're working through it. I'll just say that. Each of the times that they, like right now, they're working on the sturdy tentacle that's over there, and what they're going to do is burn it down to a specific number. They're not trying to defeat it, because if you defeat it, more more things occur in this raid, and we just want to burn it down just a little bit to a certain percentage, and then they're going to go and it's going to like spawn more tentacles on these boats, and then they're going to go take care of that, release the boat, hit the head, and then we can do some burn damage on the head. Vile Scream, that's what it is. So as this boat starts coming, you'll see the head has now lost some, or will lose its buff that it has going on. Let's see. So they're working on the very far back boat on the right. And so they just released it. Here it comes. We'll see if we retarget the head. And then as the boat hits it, you'll see the buff go away. Yep. So the buff looks like a corruption, but in any case, that's how it goes. You run to each of the docks there. You save each of those boats, and it'll hit the head, and then you just burn the head down. Tanks stay at the far corners to keep the AoE of those slapping tentacles faced away from the group. You want to keep the head faced away from the group. The sturdies need to just be burned down slowly until... because I think what happens, I haven't seen it yet, but I think what happens if you burn the sturdies down too quickly, they end up grabbing more of these little small boats behind you, and they'll get destroyed before you're able to go down and release them. But it looks like they're working on the last boat on the port side dock, or the left dock, and then they'll come over to the right dock and save another, I think it's 2 boats, but it could just be 1. There's another part of this fight, and I'm waiting for it to occur. Looks like 2 boats. Here we went ahead and we released all the boats. They've hit the head. The head is now gone. You got to burn down the sturdy tentacles. And essentially, I just keep aggro on them. I ran over to the other side. Not really sure why, because I just keep this tentacle. I try and take the aggro of that slapping. So the outside tentacles are called slapping. They do ranged attacks. And the insides are sturdies. They do melee attacks, essentially. Here comes the head again. I'm going to face it a different way so that when it does that throw up, it doesn't hit the group. More tentacles pop up. They're slapping and sturdy again. I'm going to try and get the aggro from them or for them. From them. And basically at this point, I want to have the aggro of all the tentacles. Now they're gonna res me here in a second, and then I'll show you what the tank has to do. So the primary tank that had the aggro of the head, I think they're trying to explain it to me on Discord as we're doing it, because I was a little confused. I hadn't ever done this before, and I hadn't gotten this far. So I have the aggro of the head. I'm gonna cycle through and try and get the aggro from all the different tentacles. And then what they're explaining to me is I need to run towards the door that we entered, and basically the secondary tank is going to take the tentacles, aggro of the tentacles once they kill the ads. And then the slappings, I'm going to do single taunts on so that they're just hitting me with range attacks. I'm taking quite a bit of damage right now, and I haven't cycled through any of my cooldowns, which is absurd. But I think that's because I was listening to them like try and tell me what's coming up next. Because it's difficult to explain this entire fight from the very beginning and then expect the new person to be able to tank it towards the end and remember. Yep. And here's where they tell me, like, just go stand in the back. And I was like, I'm in trouble? But they want you as far back as possible without resetting the instance. You want to have the slapping tentacles that pop up here in a second and the sturdies as aggroed on you. All you got to do is just cycle through all your different blue powers or whatever protects your particular tank, and they're gonna go burn down the tentacles. And you'll see here in a minute. Like I'm at this point, because this is my first run. I'm pretty confused on what exactly I'm doing, because they kept saying go to the middle, do this, do that. And I was like, am I just supposed to help with damage, or like what's the point? Because Truck now has the aggro. And they just kept telling me, run to the back, stand in the back. I was like, oh, okay. But there is a point to this. My healer will just keep healing me. The ranged will start hitting me here in a second once I figure out, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And there you go. So I should have been doing that the whole time, where the sturdies are shooting essentially their acid at me. And I'm just supposed to stand there and take it and just keep taunting them. And you'll see in the TA window that the Glutton is Umshûra Umshûra the Glutton is almost taken out. Only 14 million more hit points. But before you know it, that'll be done, and then we'll move on to the loot. As you could tell, I got pretty bored from standing back there, so I went ahead and changed into my outfit. I was waiting to loot the chest. I don't think they actually told me it's my turn to loot again. I just said, I'm getting dressed up, I'm going to do it. Normally we cycle through who gets to loot it, and then basically it's passing blame to if you loot it and nobody gets anything good, then it's your fault, you know. I figure if I'm dressed up, then I'm fine, you know. And I felt good. I got a good job from my kin mate there, and even though there was a lot of learning that needed to be done, the second run we did through here a couple days later, I took all the lessons learned and improved upon it. So this is what they were trying to tell me mid-fight, because I told you there was that guy that was jumping up and down on the corner. He was trying to explain that I needed to be here where he's standing at that corner and tanking, keeping the aggro and the AoE frontal faced away from the group from that tentacle that was popped up there. There's a lot of that sort of mechanic in this fight for us, which is just having the tank face either tentacle or the main boss head or something away from the group. So we're just helping the healers with essentially healing, you know, because not everybody's taking so much damage. He's explaining there that DPS will stand there. I stand over on the corner. And then the next time we ran it, I was perfectly fine, and we actually didn't have any deaths. On this run, I did some magic of video editing and cut out the defeats, but we each boss, I think we got defeated, and maybe it was my fault, maybe not. We had a couple new people in, so I think everybody made a couple mistakes here and there. So nothing was flawless. This run took about, I think with the defeats, 2 hours. Did it need to take that long? When we did it the next run, a couple days later, it only took an hour, and we were in and out. And I was surprised. I had gone ahead and reserved 3 hours, you know, of my game time. Closed the door, said I'm doing this, and we were done in an hour. And I came out and I was like, I don't know what to do now. So spent some time with the old dog. Just hung out with him instead and decompressed. Because doing a raid, it can stress you out a little bit, or just feels like a lot. But here we go. We're going to go ahead and loot. And we'll take a look at what I got. I ended up getting the helmet. Now, there's 3 different kinds of helmets for this. This is the regrowth. The Umbari helmet of regrowth is going to be for if I was doing healing as a bear and not tanking. The tank one, I don't remember the name of it, but I ended up getting it on the next run. The Razor Claw is the DPS helmet. So you just got to look at the names and look at the stats. I mean, the stats on that one's not too bad. So I think I ended up wearing it a couple of days and into the next raid. But these guys suggested that instead of using the Dragon in the Storm set, you use the raid set. Gives you more stats just because of the basic essence slots that are in there, and you get to choose what you put in. Well, I hope this helped give you an insight to the raid, and if your kin's having problems, or you just needed a fresh perspective, go ahead, hit like, subscribe, and hit me up with a comment. Let me know if this video was good for you or if it was way too long. Take care. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.